Giovanosa.
Good evening. Sorry I couldn't get here sooner. I couldn't find parking. Can laugh. Council President, just a point of clarification with regard to public comments in this particular meeting. Is it only germane to the topics for legislation or general? General.
General comments.
Very good. Okay. Two things then. First thing, regarding the vote, again, I think this is a very ill-conceived idea. It does nothing for housing affordability. It merely brings one developer in to become the new biggest landlord in downtown Salisbury, which will tax our services and long-term budget outlays. But again, I hope at least one council member thinks differently before the second reading. Second point, this is not related to that, and I debated talking about it. Several weeks ago, a council member made a series of TikTok videos, which I wasn't aware of, but luckily my students are. And there are several different topics that are addressed on this council person's TikTok page, which is fine. But one referenced me and my son regarding his disabilities. And I have, and other people can certainly criticize people on their political votes, on their views. But I always believe that families are off limits. And I find it very bad faith that if you have an issue with me or my view on a topic, that you don't have to make posts specifically on things that are not relevant to the issue. I don't know exactly what the council member was attempting to entertain with that post, but I found it very bad taste. And the fact that I had my own students tell me about it secondhand says a lot about the lack of decorum here. And I think it's one of the reasons why so much of our city government has been so dysfunctional and just not representative to the citizens. So please, do better.
Thank you. Robert Taylor.
Robert Taylor, still a Salisbury resident. Continuing on what I said earlier during the work session, I do give a shout out to the mayor for what's happened in our budget this year, our financial statements. It looks like we're coming out of the doldrums that he found himself in when he was elected. So congratulations on that. Now getting back to the density matter, a few things. I heard some comments earlier. One had to do with, well, there are all these cities that are doing this. Well, how many of them are doing it where they do away with their parking lots, and then they do away with an on-site parking requirement, and then they have development? None were mentioned. Heidelberg, Germany was mentioned. I've been there, and I think many other people have been to European cities, and they're much, much different from cities here in the United States for many reasons, including transportation. So some of the things we hear at these meetings need to be addressed. Now, there was a comment by an attorney that, oh, we really have a density of 70 now because you can get a special exception for 30 units. Well, Judge Jackson ruled that you can't get a special exception for density. Now, that's the state law. It's been the state law for 50 years. Why it's been different here, God only knows. Can't get into it, but it doesn't change the law because you can't change the law that way. So what we're hearing are things that are just, I have to say it, ridiculous. Now, they think that they can appeal this to Annapolis and win. Well, if so, that's another reason to not do anything. Let it go to Annapolis and see who's right on this. I was one of the plaintiffs that got it thrown out of court. So, I mean, I have a vested interest in this. I also have some experience in it. I help write the briefs because I'm an attorney. I still practice. Looking at what the Planning and Zoning Commission did, I've never seen such stuff, and I did practice zoning law for about 40 years. Some of the findings are just simply incorrect. For example, the increase in density is consistent and in furtherance of the current comprehensive plan adopted by the city in 2010. It's not. The comprehensive plan calls for a density of 40 units per acre in the CBD. So that's just simply an erroneous statement. There's reference to some units that are not in compliance that have over 40 units an acre. The big one, of course, is the Ross. There are several others. Some of those buildings go back to 1887. I don't know when they began to be used. Some of them are 4 units, 6 units, 8 units. When I moved here in 1971, I think a good many of them were being used then. So I suspect that they go back probably even before we had zoning in Salisbury, which was long after 1887, I can assure you. There are other speculative things in their findings. They didn't discuss any of the evidence. There's no evidence in the record for many of them. And they took the position that it was up to the opposition to prove that it wasn't appropriate, rather than it was up to the applicant who wants the change to prove that it is. For example, here's a reading. Sufficient evidence has not been presented to show that the increase in density would propose an endangerment to the public health, security, and general welfare of the citizens. It's not up to us to disprove it. It would be up to them to show. And there's no evidence showing that. So, I mean, what the Planning and Zoning Commission did, frankly, is almost just a joke. So there are a number of reasons why I think it makes sense just to table this, not to go any further. Let us go through the comprehensive zoning process.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Thank you.
And see what happens in that process.
Thank you. Vaughn Siggers.
Good evening, thank you. And again, Vaughn Siggers, City of Salisbury resident. I would reiterate my earlier comments that I am not in support of increasing the density. I know that the zoning committee made the recommendation and vote 6-1 to approve it. I am reflective of the decision when we chose to open the plaza to vehicular traffic. I was a lone voter to not have the traffic flowing easterly. To not have the traffic flowing westerly. It made no sense to have the traffic flowing to an already heavily trafficked area. And the east side of the plaza was a much lighter traffic area. I stood alone on that vote, and I knew, I had confidence that one day they will have to reverse the traffic flowing through the plaza from west to east. It just makes sense. Fortunately, that was a decision that could be reversed. If you decide to make this density increase, you're not going to be able to make a reversal there. I would ask that you be prudent in making the decision to do this. You must have a tug of war with those of us who are saying don't do it and those who are saying do it. But I hope that you'll be prudent and realize the impact, the negative impact that you're having on neighborhoods and the downtown area as people are trying to get through this area. There are residents in the downtown area, and there was some implication that there weren't any. There are residents in the downtown area, and this would not preclude it from building up on the residency in the downtown area. It would just not double it to the point that the density would bring. So we're not preventing, you would not be preventing by making the decision. The zoning committee can make a recommendation. You make the decision. You would not be stopping or hindering the flourishing, thriving downtown community to keep the density where it is. I hope that you, for the second reading, will not choose to impact this community with that kind of an increase and live to regret it, because you will not be able to reverse it. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn Breton.
Good evening again. My name is Lynn Bratton. I live in the city of Salisbury, and I have for many, many years. And I do enjoy the city of Salisbury and all that it has to offer. Toto, I took him out, so he's not going to speak again. But I do still remind you that Toto was the one who pulled the curtain away from the illusions. And I still think we are seeing these things through illusionary eyes. I totally agree with my former student, Mr. Dunn, when he suggested that we get the entities together and do comprehensive studies. Kudos to that. I do agree with that. And I do agree that we need to do those comprehensive studies before that second vote. And I think we need to have those numbers and we need to know what they say so that we know forthright what's going to happen. And so for that reason, I would recommend that you table a decision on this until we have those numbers. I think that's a prudent thing to do. We waited long enough, and I think that waiting a little longer to make sure we get it right is the right thing to do, because once this decision is made, it can't be reversed. It will be with us, and it will affect the downtown as we now know it. I also agreed with Mr. Taylor, who mentioned that this decision needs to be maintained through a comprehensive study with the comp plan. And again, I think that's a second reason why it should be tabled until we're ready to make a full thing, not just like a little here and a little there. This is like making just a huge mistake, because this decision is going to impact that decision, and you're going to end up with a lot of dominoes falling down on each other. So let's get it right, folks. Let's postpone it, which is called tabling in a business meeting. And I think you need to study and find out what that traffic study and those parking studies are going to be saying. I also would appreciate it. This particular council meeting was held directly on the back of the work session. Normally there's a work session, you decide to move something forward, everybody can go home and think about what they heard at the work session, think about it, look it up, restudy it, reread it. Unfortunately, we had a 5-minute break, and that was long enough to maybe just stand up and stretch. But I really beg you, as a council, to look at me and listen to what I'm saying and not just kind of staring away and looking at your computer screens, which you did all the time before. I think you need to study and read the DID report from start to finish, inside out and back, and call Mr. Nick over there if you've got questions about it. He's your city hired planning department person. He is not vested with any corporation or company. He's got only the knowledge that he's bringing to the table of the study that he's done. And I think it is a big mistake to, for lack of a better word, to poo-pah what he did and what that department did. I was at that 4-hour, 3.5-hour meeting, after which there was a pre-written motion to accept the density and move it forward. Nobody thought about it. Nobody contemplated what was heard. Us speaking was just not even something that was even part of the plan. It was absolutely just a disgusting experience as an adult who values input from other people. And I behoove you, read the DID report and understand that decisions in this way cannot be reversed. I beg you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly Worthington.
I've heard it stated that this density increase is not about a particular project, yet the developers requested it and attached it to the request for the development plans. The reason this project wasn't approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals is the negative impact it would have on the existing downtown. Not once, not twice, but 3 times denied. No change in plan, yet here we are revisiting the same denied project, new faces making decisions on an old denied project. The Department of Infrastructure and Development and City Planner gave many reasons why not to approve, yet they have been ignored. I hope that you guys do this for moral and ethical reasons and represent the city and the facts, not personal relationships or interests. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Dunn.
Thank you again, Mike Dunn, the Greater Salisbury Committee. Thank you for your vote. Thank you for moving this forward. This is a significant thing for our community. The Greater Salisbury Committee gets behind significant things in our community. And I want to remind the council and members of the audience that while I may be the only organization represented here tonight, you all well know that the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce is in full support of the vote you took tonight. The Downtown Salisbury Business Alliance is in full support. Tidal Health is in full support. Purdue Farms is in full support. And I envision, and I know this is I actually view this as a good atmosphere, in a few years, in a very short few years, there's going to be a performing arts center in the heart of downtown that's going to bring 15 to 20,000 people a year into this downtown. Tidal Health, just the other day, the president, Steve Leonard, shared with me that they are prepared to make available on any given night of the Performing Arts Center 150 of their parking spaces in their Carroll Street garage. So think about this city with people living in it, with people coming down to it to see performances many dozens of times a year. When I hear the comments about this is, well, not the worst thing to happen, but that this is a horrible thing, there are thousands of people who just see it differently. That, again, going back to your predecessors and the mayor's predecessor, those studies I mentioned earlier, they were community-based with the leaders of the community at that time as part of the citizen panels. And again, since 1980 to now, this is what we've been looking for. And thankfully, we have people ready to build in our downtown. There have been two things built in our downtown in our lifetime: the Paul Martin Service Building and the Ross. That's it. We are doing exactly what towns just like ours are doing across the country. And I salute and applaud the decision that you made tonight. I encourage you to continue and to move forward with this resolution, or ordinance on density. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. That concludes, seeing no other public comments, that concludes the public comment. Oh, yes, please.
Hi, Chris Adams, 100 West Main Street. We haven't answered any of the questions that have been brought forth to either the zoning committee or the city council in reference to the density change that take into account all of the parking needs for existing businesses and tenants, parking for customers and visitors driving into town from our rural surroundings, parking for employees of the city, parking for new proposed storefronts, adequate parking for the courthouse, parking for SU's 1,000-seat Performing Arts Center, that's 150 spaces. That doesn't sound like it's adequate for 1,000 people. Downtown flooding implications and the environmental impact of the building on a former lake, the effect of the building process will have on the current downtown businesses. That's something that has not even been discussed. And we saw the fallout from that when we did the big makeover of the downtown plaza. There was a lot of people that went out of business during that time. And that's never been acknowledged, and their needs were never acknowledged during that time. As a fellow downtown business, I understand that Brad Gillis and Joey Gilkerson in Greater Salisbury have invested a significant amount of their money in planning this luxury housing development. They did it with knowledge of forethought that the downtown density was 40 acres. Or 40 units per acre. They gambled that they would get their special exception to their density demand, as the density increase is valuable for their bottom line. Okay, however, their project comes at the expense of the taxpayers. Okay, because Joey and Brad aren't going to be paying taxes or significant amounts of them for the next 20 years. Well, where's that shortfall money going to come from when your own department sat here and told you we don't have the infrastructure to make this work?
Ms. Adams, I'm going to pause you for just a second. If you could refrain from listing individuals moving forward.
Well, that's what this is about. Sorry. Anyway, Henry
appreciate
Ewer
it.
told you what was going on with planning and zoning and all of that, and he explained to you that we don't have the infrastructure to support this downtown development, and then to go ahead and see that we all wasted our time at the planning and zoning because the decision was already made, and it's a big embarrassment. It's an embarrassment for, the Board of Zoning Appeals to have acted in that way. So, I mean, I think it's unconscionable that you're going to put the responsibility for the growth of the infrastructure on the backs of the tax-paying citizens, 70% of whom are renters who are struggling to make ends meet at this time. And I don't understand how that this is even an idea that you would put that weight upon their shoulders right now, especially when the so-called cabal of landlords are also struggling and striving to keep our rents low enough so that they're affordable. And this is all luxury housing that's going to be subsidized by the regular people. It's appalling. And once again, I have in my notes here, which has been said several times, that once this developer builds this housing, it's not going to be able to be undone. The fallout from it's not going to be undone. We haven't once had anybody discuss what the optimum density is for our downtown. Even the department that did their report did not give us what is the optimum density that this infrastructure for downtown can support without us having massive tax increases. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen any information on it, and we haven't even addressed the question. So it's really problematic to me that we're even at this point, and that four of you have voted for this when we know that there's going to be negative fallout, and that none of the questions or the concerns of these good people that have taken their time to come here and have come to all of these meetings have been addressed in any way, shape, or form. It seems like it's a done deal before we even started, and the fact that they were denied, and now we've changed the law to accommodate a big developer on the backs of the taxpayers. It's unconscionable. It's unconscionable. So taxpayers in the city of Salisbury, when your rent goes up and your expenses go up, don't be blaming the landlords of the city of Salisbury. You can look at this council right here who voted in favor of this. When the fallout comes, it's going to be on their shoulders.
Yep. We're not. Again, we need to remain respectful and decorum and. Seeing no other public comments, we'll move forward. Again, before we do that, again, just to underscore, moving forward into 2025, council meetings will be on the second and fourth Mondays of the month, unless otherwise stated. All council meetings will begin at 6 p.m. It will follow like tonight, which was a work session and special legislative session due to us not being here next Monday because of the holiday and it being a 5-week month. So you will see if a work session is needed, then we would go forth into the legislative sessions. The ability to join the meetings via Zoom will be limited to city staff and presenters. Again, because of security reasons, we're going to assess how folks can join and take part in council meetings virtually, but we will refrain from folks joining the Zoom and it being displayed here unless there is a presenter. Public comments, again, for the work session and legislative sessions will be 2 minutes. And just to streamline, again, to avoid folks having to get up in the middle of the meeting and to make sure that the city clerk has all the public comments listed. We will have a form conveniently located on our landing page for you to fill out your name and all the details here. We'll work out when that has to be done beforehand, and you'll have ample notice for that. Again, this is all just to ease so we can save a few trees and so that we're not getting up and down during the meeting, and so everything is streamlined there. And then so the deadline for those forms will be listed here for you. And given that, we'll pivot to administration comments to round us off.
Thank you. Handful of things. Santa's workshop this past weekend, this past week was wonderful. We had over 200 vehicles, 400 kids received a toy. It was a wonderful turnout. Really bless our children in Cloverland for their sponsorship and donations. Great shout out to our housing and community development team and all the support staff who helped make that event wonderful. So appreciate all the people who came out. It is its 15th year. Looking forward to doing it again next year. Reminder, city offices will be closed on Christmas Eve on December 24th along with the 25th. So make your plans to see us before or after. Also, downtown ball drop, that is coming up to ring in the new year. You guys will hopefully be able to join us. It won't be too cold. Mayor will be there counting it down. And then, we'll see you next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kitzrow.
I want to just reiterate some of the things I said earlier. I won't take a little bit longer tonight than I normally do. I think everybody, I want to appreciate everybody on both sides of the aisle that came to talk about this topic in terms of the density project. Nobody, I don't think, in this room is against development. What I'm getting really aggravated about is the fact that that we're talking about we're polarizing situations that we're not saying. We're not saying we're not for development, we're not for residential's downtown, people downtown. What we're for is a balance. I was at the meeting the other night. I said, raise your hand if you didn't drive downtown or drive this meeting directly. And there wasn't a single person that raised their hand. Because parking is a reality. I'm not saying it's a good thing. We're not advertising. We're not advertising our surface parking as a marketing tool. But we have to do it the right way. To some of the points earlier about a vibrant downtown. I've been down 25 years here. Had a business 17 years with my ex-wife. So I know a little bit about the ecosystem that makes retail down here. And what this project is presenting, 3% of its surface area is retail. The rest of it's residential. We might as well have a Tamarack Village downtown. It's not a dynamic, creating the culture you're looking for. It's a density-driven, low-cost project to be rented out. That's the end of it. It's not designed to be an urban planning, adaptive reuse project. It isn't. So, and that's what, I'm not saying that as a criticism, I'm just saying it's aggravating because I think we have an opportunity here to do a really, really cool project. And while Greater Salisbury is coming in here and saying, hey, we're moving ahead with the density, the current project just doesn't work from the surface area it's been trying to be built in, period. I've talked to planners, not just in this community, outside this community. Quite literally, if it wasn't so serious, they would start laughing. We don't have a parking standard. We're doubling our density. We address none of the underlying issues that were in the staff report or in the initial planning and zoning or the appeals board. Never. Nobody even talked about it. There was no conversation. So look, so we're just super frustrated that you're talking. It's like we just had our Christmas party. It'd be like me announcing we're going to have our 450 member Christmas party at my house. Yeah, what, are you not for a party? Are you not for Christmas? Are you not for your people? No, I just understand it'd be a disaster. And so it's the same thing. No one's saying anything of that sort. We're not for heads and beds downtown. A lot of the people that are promoting this from the business community have been here 3 years or less. They're renting. They have a parking permit. That's their investment. You know what I mean? There are people that have owned buildings for 25, 30 years that have 50, 60, 70 people working for them. That this proposal will cut probably their permit capacity in half, if not more, which would make their buildings less valuable and their business less practical to stay here, including some that I can name, but I don't. But it'll be a part of this battle which we are trying to infiltrate on the downtown in the business district. So listen, nobody's saying that they don't want some of the things you mentioned tonight. We just want it to be done in a balanced, protected way that keeps the downtown. I joked with Mike Dunn initially, and I don't have to take a shot at him, but I said, be careful, don't become Ezekiel Dunn. He goes, who's Ezekiel Dunn? I said, that's your grandfather who was on the Downtown Plaza Committee, which we just rebounded from, getting the plaza. And I say that because I know Mike cares about this community as much as I do, but we're just on different sides of this topic. And I think we can do a better job. We can get a better project. We just need to take our time and not try to win an argument, but try and make sense of what we're trying to do. So that's all I'll say.
We'll pivot to council comments at this time. Council, does anyone have any comments?
Just want to put a plug in for the zoo. They had one of their Rockin' Around the Zoo events this past weekend, and they've got 2 more coming up. They've got one at 5 o'clock on Friday and one at 5 o'clock on Saturday, and then they also have a kid-friendly Zoo Year's Eve. I'm loving the puns that they're coming up with for their events. A zoo event for kids for New Year's Eve. Since hopefully they will not be making it to midnight, wishing the best of luck to all the parents out there for New Year's. Other than that, have a happy New Year, Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and we'll see you next year.
Thank you. Any other Yes.
I'm reporting in on an event I attended. Monica Brooks is the president of NAACP, and they had a year in review the other night. And I wanted just to give you an update of what they represent. If you didn't already know, they're a community advocate fighting for fairness and equity for people of color. And to achieve that, they've been working as mediators with law enforcement community and with the college and in the workplace. So that's a nice positive that they're working on. They also got a grant, and they trained 5 young people, which I think is awesome when you get the younger generation involved. They planted 5 trees in Waterside Park, but here's the hitch: they have to take care of these 5 trees. And they're being proactive by meeting with Governor Moore quarterly to share the needs here and make us aware, or at least in Matter, the Eastern Shore, and holding town halls and educating the public on Black history, which will be coming in February, which April knows, and Deshawn, and I think it doesn't matter, but they did it last year at the library, and it was an awesome event. And I had a great time this weekend when April fed, how many? 100. Okay, I'll let her tell you about the event that she gave in her neighborhood. I wish all of you a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year, and I will see you then. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman?
The event was successful, very successful. 300 people were fed, seniors were fed. And I've been getting phone calls all weekend. I couldn't answer some of them because I was exhausted because I fed 300 seniors and then turned around and fed 75 vets yesterday. So I've been exhausted. So if I haven't texted you back or called you back or anything, I'm exhausted. I'm really exhausted. But I enjoyed myself. And a lot of the seniors, I've never seen, they just danced and just had so much fun, and they've been calling, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't talk. But I did talk to a couple, and they said they had the best time of their life. And that's what it's all about. You know, the seniors need the opportunity to enjoy life. They've enjoyed life, but at the end of their lives, they need the opportunity to just do their thing, and actually they did their thing. Matter of fact, we had a contest. The young people against the older people doing the electric slide, and it was comical. It was so comical, but it was fun, and everybody got a gift. Every single person, and I'd like to thank Sharon. She helped. She actually helped. She donated towards it. Angela donated towards it. Anybody that donated towards it, we really, really were grateful. We're grateful. We had the Thunder Guards. They come in and they do their thing. We hear Auto Club from Salisbury. They come in. I have another organization called Mothers of Pearls. They come in and they help. And we even had the young kids working. They were the greeters, and they made sure people got their place. They couldn't get up, and they were like non-ambulatory and couldn't move as like they would want to. So what they did was carry their plates to them, made sure they got what they needed and wanted. So it's just a blessing to be able to help the community and invest in our seniors and our youth. I would like to wish you a Merry Christmas and a happy and safe New Year, all of you all. Be blessed.
Councilwoman, any other council comments?
Blood.
Yeah.
I was going to say something about blood donation. This weekend, Shore Progress had a blood drive. There was 17 donations. Their whole day was full. Basically, that was enough to save 51 people. It was pretty impressive. Of course, I was one of the members there giving blood. And as always, if you are healthy enough, please give blood, plasma, consider being an organ donation. Enjoy this holiday season, however you celebrate, and spend this time with your family and friends.
Thank you. Before I end my council comment, I do want to say, and you just happen to be the recipient, but I apologize. I didn't know that a family member would have been brought up in a comment, and so I just know how I feel about my family, and again, that's something that
it's a fictional character.
Oh,
yeah, it was fictional. It was a character.
It was
well, I try to stop jabs.
I would think he would know.
Okay. I was gonna say. Yes. Good. Okay. I'm trying.
Yeah.
I think he's smarter than that.
With that being said, I'm looking forward to 2025. I'm looking forward to us discussing, and I hope that the continuance of opinions and the vibrance and the commentary that we get and receive, it transpires into next year. When we're talking about our initiatives, what we want to align ourselves with, a vision, which we haven't come together with. I hope we have the same charisma, the same push with those priorities to things that I think are far more important than some of the topics that we've discussed in the last year. So I look forward to that. 2025, I'm looking forward to us here, the five of us, and of course administration working even more hard than we have here in the past. So with that being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, this meeting is now adjourned.